In today's video, we're going to be talking about several different things around Fallout 76 and why a lot of players are probably about to jump back into the game, even if just briefly. So three of the main topics we are going to be looking at is first and foremost, Bethesda announced some changes that will be going live today. Secondly, what the actual results of those changes are, because naturally with Fallout 76, what's intended isn't always what we get. And then finally, Bethesda recently released their Inside the Vault article. This gives us a lot of details about the future of this game, both as far as future updates go, as well as future DLC, not just the stuff we knew about already. With that in mind, if you want to hear about one thing or not hear about another thing, I will have timestamps down below to all of the major things I do talk about. But otherwise, if you guys do enjoy, you can leave a like or subscribe. We're getting very close to 400,000 subscribers, and it'd be nice to hit that quickly, right? So kicking things off, the first thing we're going to be talking about is this new decision for Bethesda to actually take Fallout 76 offline today to actually get rid of duped items from players' inventories. This was announced just last night, and when you're watching this video, it has already happened and completed. And specifically, Bethesda says that while these servers are down, they're planning to remove items that have been created through duplication exploits from player inventories and stashes. They further mention that these item removals are supposed to be highly targeted at a specific list of items, and players who have used an exploit to dupe items or acquire duped items from other players may find those items removed from their accounts. But they further clarify that it's important to note only a small percentage of accounts currently have duped items, which means the vast majority of players will not be affected by this action. So this is interesting. It's definitely an interesting approach, and even more importantly, I think it's interesting timing. And if that wasn't totally clear, what this means is that if somebody duped a bunch of items in Fallout 76, those items hypothetically will be removed if they made it onto this specific list. But even further, let's say somebody duped a bunch of items, then dropped them on the ground and you picked them up, seemingly you would also get those items removed from your inventory. Or even if you're one of the numerous people that bought duped items off of eBay for real world money, you also are hypothetically getting these items deleted from your account right now. But something that wasn't actually revealed until after this update went live is Bethesda wasn't actually removing everything. They were removing everything except one item. So if you had 30 of the same weapon that was flagged as being duplicated, now you'll just have one of them. Or what I bet would be more common is people who maybe got just a couple. Let's say you got 2 or 3 weapons that were from a duper, now you'll be reduced to only one of those. They also go on to say that this was just the first wave of these item removals, and in the future they're considering doing it for other things. And also, if you were one of the accounts that did actually get flagged for having numerous items that were seemingly duped and getting them reduced down to one, they also looked at other items and removed those also, like mass quantities of Nuka-Cola. So this actually makes the patch very interesting, the fact that they only reduced everything down to one. The reason being, it obviously doesn't have nearly as big of an impact. If you were simply traded one item, you're probably still fine. If you duped a bunch of stuff and spread it out several different characters, you're probably still fine. Obviously the mass quantity will be gone, but if you just want to play the game normally with your duped item, then you can. So really, it looks like this wave of deletions was really targeted at people who were selling these items, whether it be on eBay or even just in-game for various caps, while the buyers will walk off relatively unscathed. So I think there's pros and cons to this. Obviously, most people that did actually purchase these or acquire them through legitimate or illegitimate means will be happy about this. But even further, I was kind of hoping this would reinvigorate the in-game economy, not make it so some of these super overpowered weapons were so abundantly common because they've been being duped for months, but obviously it's not doing that. There's still going to be tons of these in the world, it's just that people that did have massive stacks of them no longer will. Although the big question that pops into my mind is, why did they do this now? If they actually had this capability and had it for the past 3 months, why didn't they do it over the past month or two when duping really became a major issue? Or even just recently, right before we saw the nerfs to 2-shot explosive weapons. Well, I'm happy to see Bethesda is really clamping down on duping now, and I feel like this wave of item deletions is overall a good thing, but it really does feel like something that should have been done earlier. It's a problem that should have been addressed over a month before they actually started doing things about it. But either way, with that in mind, what actually happened as people started to log in and check out what was going on in their inventories? As I mentioned before, I wouldn't be shocked if Fallout 76 sees a big spike in players today simply for people curious to see what was removed, whether that was intentional or unintentional. And as far as the patch goes, it's actually pretty good. As far as I can tell right now, after waiting an hour or two after the patch went live, there aren't any immediately obvious reverting or widespread bugs. People aren't reporting a ton of missing items that were unintentional. Even further, the amount of time these servers were down was considerably longer than it has been with previous updates, so I wouldn't be shocked if after the last fiasco with Fallout 76's patch, they actually took their time with this one and like triple checked nothing got broken along the way. Part of the reason for this was when Bethesda originally announced all the items were getting deleted, they again just said we're removing duped items. It wasn't until just after the patch got finished posting that they actually updated that to we're reducing duped item stacks to 1. So a lot of people just assumed they were going to lose some of their favorite weapons because they probably got them off a duper. But even beyond all of that, Bethesda has posted their Inside the Vault article today going over a ton of future content coming to Fallout 76, both in the form of bug fixes through updates, but also actual DLC content. They start the article off talking about how even though right now the main focus is getting the game in a bug-free state, they also are working on some DLC. They mentioned the survival mode that we have talked about in the past. I made a full video on it. We don't hear anything new, just that it still is coming in March. But then they go on to say that they will also be introducing new PvE content for those who seek adventure through quests, events, and other features. We're planning to do this through a series of weekly updates we're calling Wild Appalachia, which will be our first big content drop of the year and spans the next few months. In addition to new quests, events, and challenges, it will also bring new content to camps, crafting, and much more. And later on in the article, they say some of this new content will start rolling out starting with patch 7. The next patch is going to be patch 6, that's coming out next week, so who knows when this actually releases. Probably at some point in early March, but still only a couple of weeks away now. So I think this actually sounds pretty cool, but I also have some reservations and concerns around it. Seemingly, this is going to be one of those content drops that you get a little bit of each week, so you are encouraged to continue playing the game. I'm sure it'll be a mix of free content through quests, events, as they mention here, but even further, there's probably going to be a ton of Atomic Shop stuff also added in with this, which is okay. But at the same time, if it's going to span a couple of weeks to begin with, but then also apparently it's going to go on for a few months, based at the rate at which Bethesda was already developing content, I feel like, do they have enough content to make this last more than a month? Like, assuming I'm reading this correctly, it does say that we're going to have content coming out week by week, so it'll probably be spanned over the course of quite a few weeks. But then even further, this entire Wild Appalachia event is going to span more than 1 month? That really makes me worried that even if there is a decent amount of content here, they're going to stretch it out so thin that each individual week we're not going to get all that much. Now, obviously that's pure speculation. We have no idea how big this is or isn't going to be. I mean, frankly, we don't even really know what it's adding in. Some new content to camps and crafting sounds cool, but it really depends on how much and what it ends up being. I would love to see some new features added into camps, like being able to combine your camp with somebody else to create an even larger camp. But yeah, at least for me, that whole spanning a few months thing really rubs me the wrong way. I'm concerned as to what that ends up being. As far as the naming of this, Wild Appalachia makes me think of the Wild Wasteland perk you could take in Fallout New Vegas. This would basically make it so you could run into various odd encounters throughout the rest of your game. Some of these being superstitious, like something to do with aliens. I could see Fallout 76 embracing maybe some of their cryptid lore, so you'll have way more ghost stories or lore stories around some of the local creatures that we see, like Mothman and the Flatwoods Monster. There's a lot of room for DLC there, and if that's what this ends up being, I would be pretty excited for it. And maybe even some evidence for my theory here. There's actually some stuff that you can find in the files of Fallout 76 added, I think in the past update, that is Mothman themed. So let's say one of the weeks of this Wild Appalachia will feature Mothman. We'll get a couple of additional quests based on some of the story that already exists in the game, and during that week all these items will also be for sale. And then finally on this section they talk about the 2019 roadmap for Fallout 76 DLC, and they say they're looking to roll it out later this month, which to me makes it sound like it's at least a week plus away at this point. And then they also talk about patch 6 to Fallout 76. This is going to be a patch rolling out next week. They go on to mention that it's actually going to release simultaneously on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. As far as some of the major changes coming with this, we are getting a stash limit increase to 800. The grenade launchers in the game will now properly be listed as heavy weapons and benefit from those perks. Accidentally shooting another player's camp will no longer automatically make you wanted. In Fallout 76 right now, even just just a few stray bullets at somebody's camp will make you wanted to everyone on the server, and they say with this change you're going to have to put in considerable more effort to actually get that wanted status. So that sounds good. Apparently the patch is going to contain more than that. Hopefully this time around we stick to bug fixes and not new bugs, but I know the stash increase is going to be a pretty major one, but there's definitely some other stuff lacking, like a buff to energy weapons, most of the other bugs suggested on the known issues list, or even several of the community made bug lists that have been popping up on the Fallout 76 subreddit. But either way, as one final thing they include in this article, Bethesda, and specifically the Bethesda community team, is actually going to start live streaming Fallout 76 in the future. These streams are going to be on Mixer and Twitch, but even further they say it's really meant to be a way for the community team to communicate with the community, mentioning how it gives them the opportunity to answer questions in real time. The first stream is set to take place on Friday, February 22nd from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And I would actually say this is only continuing of a pretty positive trend Bethesda has had in communication. On the Fallout 76 subreddit, the community managers have been extremely active over the past week or two. One of the major issues with that being that they don't have a ton to say. They just kind of acknowledge certain things got posted, which is nice. And I think the bottleneck really lies somewhere else. They're communicating as much as they can, it's just that they don't have good things to communicate. I don't really think it should take this long to get a roadmap for DLC. It's been almost 3 weeks since we originally heard about it. But that's not on them, that's on the people building the roadmap, or even on Bethesda for not thinking of this way ahead of time. And alternatively, with the updates, I feel like there might just not be enough developers on this game. So even though communication certainly can be improved, I think they are taking considerable steps in the right direction, and it's definitely not their weakest link. I think the community managers in particular are doing a really good job. Even just as the servers were down, one of the community managers was posting half-hour to hour updates, just kind of being like, yep, we're aware the servers are still down, we're just working on things. I'm sure not many people even saw that, but I was following it closely and I just kind of liked it. I thought that was a good effort by him. Either way, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. We're just a couple of weeks away from potentially some of the first DLC to Fallout 76. I'm excited and I'm nervous to see what they have to show us with that DLC. I'd really love to get back into just making videos on the game full time. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been really diversifying because there's simply not much to talk about. Not a ton of people are playing the game, and thus not a ton of people are watching videos solely about in-game content. This Inside the Vault article has me at least somewhat hopeful about the future, so hopefully I'm not just disappointed. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.